Hi, Bruce. Uh, Making a mess. Making a mess. There. Hi. Hi, Sam. Oh, um, I have one moment of humor which could wait till another time if we run short on space, but I have a door prize for a lucky transcriber whose number can be chosen by Bruce or you or somebody. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, and I've just started the room, and I think Bruce is here. But
I'm here.
Oh,
Can you
hi,
hear me?
Bruce. Yes,
Hey,
you
hi.
are. Hi, Bruce. I have you in one ear, and I have Sam in my other ear on the phone. Sure, that'll be great. Okay, bye. Hi, Bruce. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for the email.
Thanks. Excellent. Yeah, I'm still relatively new at being a Zoom host, so this technology sometimes
Oh, I know.
slows
It can
way
be very
down.
frustrating.
Yeah,
That where the menu go, they disappear everything on you and all this kind of stuff. I've used it
exactly.
a few times, but I have to relearn it every time I look at it.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah.
That yeah. Oh, there we are. Hi, I do remember you. I've talked to you
Okay.
on Commercial Drive in
Really?
yeah, I think in the Continental or somewhere.
Really? Wow, I've
Yeah.
been there for a while.
Yeah,
Huh.
no, me neither. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny, eh?
Yeah.
It's just the way it goes. I don't
Yep.
get very far from home. I go a few feet to my coffee shop now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I'm a minimalist. Minimal effort for everything.
No kidding. Yeah.
Until somebody like Sam says, "Oh, do you want to do this?" And then, of course, I'm away I go off
Yeah.
something I'm interested in. Yeah. So, is it going to work for me to hold up my book? Just I was looking at trying to figure out how to let's just sec here.
Sure.
God, yeah,
Uh,
it's going to be a little bit hard here.
yeah.
Man, I can't see what I'm doing. Is the problem?
Okay. I can see, but you have to hold it up
In
quite, yeah,
exactly
like
the
that.
right place, which I can't see because it's in front
Yeah.
of my face. Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
I need it.
Um,
Maybe I'll stand on a chair or something. Oh man, I
mm,
can't believe it. I would have printed out a whole bunch of maps. So let me just think about this. I probably have everything
okay.
printed out. Let me go look for stuff.
Sure.
I printed out so much stuff.
Hey,
Oh, hi, Sam.
Yeah.
hey,
Yeah.
there he is. Hey,
Hey,
Star.
I've just realized I can't hold up my book because I can't see what I'm holding up. So now I'm just gonna run around and try find some of the million printouts I've already done back in.
Huh. I can hold up the book if you want. I have a.
You can't see what you're doing.
Oh, that's true.
See, because the book's right in front of you. You gotta hold it right up to the camera, and then you can't see anything. It's almost impossible. But I got printouts.
Yeah.
Unless I can allow you to share screen if you have it on your computer.
Well, yeah. Well, I could share a PowerPoint file thing.
Do you have it on your computer, the PowerPoint?
Oh yeah, I got a million copies of.
Because
Okay.
I can.
Is it
I
easy
can.
to link to a PowerPoint?
I guess Margaret, you have to share the screen, right?
I can allow Bruce to share his screen, and that's
So I can
not
just
a
go to,
problem.
There's
so I
a
can just go to
green.
PowerPoint.
There's
Yeah,
a green button at the bottom of your screen, I think, Margaret, or Lynn, is it your
share
screen?
screen, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Share
Okay, so I
screen.
should be able to go to the desktop. Oh boy, where'd it go?
Did you
Yeah.
push yours, Margaret? Like the
I
little button
did to allow
that says multiple or something like that?
yes, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, command, option control.
I don't.
Okay, I was working on doing a PowerPoint, using my PowerPoint slides, then I got bogged down. You know how you
Bruce,
get
so I think
bogged
all you have to do is press the green button at the bottom of your
down.
screen.
Right, to share
It's called
screen.
share screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do,
And then
yeah, bop back and forth.
choose which.
Yeah, okay, let me try to find my binder.
Sure.
Oh, no, are you in? Oh.
okay.
So Lynn's
on,
trying to get in.
Hi, Lynn. I'm just letting you in.
Oh, thank you. Oh, I thought it was Sam. Thanks, Margaret.
Oh, hi. Yeah. So I have
Thank you.
5 of the transcribers in the waiting room. Should I let them in
Oh.
or do you?
Let's see what if Bruce needs to.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I'll just message them.
Or I'm sure they know it's 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
I'm just coming.
Yeah, that's true. We're yeah.
So, well, or we could let them in too, I guess, if you think
Okay.
it's.
Sure.
Hello. Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
Can you hear
Wow.
me? No. Mm-hmm.
The gang's all here. Hey, Gerald. All right. Thank you for coming. This is great. The gang all here.
Yeah, definitely. Hi. Yeah. So I have Kathy Haber, who's in the waiting room. Don't know if you can. No, Kathy won't be able to hear me, but in one screen it says she's joining. In one screen it says she's still in the waiting room. So I'll see if I can rescue her from waiting room.
Purgatory.
Being a purgatory, yes. Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
Oh, early. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Kathy.
Hi, Kathy. Are you with us? Ah, yes, there she is. Okay. Yeah. And Hal, are you? Oh,
I'm here.
oh,
I'm
there
just-
you are. Hi, Hal. Okay.
I'm just trying to set it up here. Well,
Oh,
but anyway,
you're
that's
in
fine.
good
I'll
company.
muddle along.
Not
I'm
to,
here.
yeah, not to worry, Hal. You're in good company. That's what all the rest of us are doing, is trying to set it up here. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Anybody else got lovely white stuff floating down from the sky outside their window?
Yes, a lot.
So much. Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of pretty from the inside. Yes. Yep.
We're downtown here and we've got a lot coming down now.
Yeah.
Is it sticking?
Yes, it is here. I'm Granville
Eh.
Island area and it's sticking.
Yeah. I'm in Surrey and it's kind of more slopping than sicking.
I'm in Kits and it's
Eh,
sticking.
Oh,
So Bruce, how does it look?
Hey, Google,
oh,
stop.
well, maybe I can get away with holding up my book. Let me try it like this. Oh, yeah, that's
That looks good.
yeah, that'll work.
Okay.
Okay, that's good enough. That's the simplest thing. I was trying to get to PowerPoint, but it got bogged down.
Oh,
Hmm.
Never simple.
Darlene, I'm glad you could make it too. I know you're here, but I haven't heard from you, but that's great. Ah. Okay.
So Kathy says, I'm on a laptop Zoom, so multitasking for a bit via my phone. Okay.
Oh, no worries. Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. Now, oh, and Liam Anuk, Joanne McCormick, and Tom Carter are just going to join us in a second. Hi, Gerald. I'm glad to see you.
Hello.
Hi.
We got Tom Carter coming. Hey.
Yes, indeed. There I am.
Yeah.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
Bruce, Tom is our last speaker. So,
Oh, yeah. On what?
well, he's a painter and very involved in archives and the Friends of the Archives and all these other, but mainly I think your main focus is on entertainment of old Vancouver.
Oh, wow.
Entertainment history is my specialty, and I'm also at the BC Entertainment Hall of Fame,
Oh, great.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
really, that's what I'm known for rescuing and for archiving.
And I just bought a painting from Tom. It's a beautiful painting. He's got a website with all of his gorgeous paintings that really capture Vancouver, and he
Oh,
goes through the archives to make sure that the old Vancouver is what he's capturing, to make sure it's historically accurate.
great.
Thank you, Sam. And actually, I think I bumped into Mr. Macdonald. I think he was sitting beside me once at one of the machines up in Special.
Really? In special collections? That was a long time ago then. Yeah. Wow.
We both went to the microfilm machines.
Huh.
Huh? That what?
That's back when we were all using microfilm instead of doing it online like we do now.
Oh, God. I had to drive in from White Rock just to get one piece of paper and, photocopying in special collections.
Yeah.
I just remember doing that in my spare time.
Yeah.
Well, that might segue into our special guest here, because it was a conversation I had with Bruce, and Bruce, I hope I remembered this correctly, but
Sure.
when you saw what our volunteers of the transcribers have made, I think you said some comment like, if only I had this when I was writing this book, I would have saved some number that I remember, something like in the thousands of hours that you actually spent in the archives looking at old documents.
The internet, the World Wide Web is 1995, and it is revolutionizing the world. And now it's really revolutionizing the world. We're skyrocketing with increased knowledge and so forth. But before 85, it was like the horse and buggy era, or you're on foot.
Yeah.
A huge difference, just a huge difference. And that I think about me driving in from White Rock to look up something at special collections. Do you remember you had to fill out a great long form to get one photocopy? And then they'd look at you and say, okay, and the photocopy machine was right behind you. And they'd say, okay, come back tomorrow and pick up your photocopy. You know, I'd say, well, I live in White Rock. They go, and they wouldn't know what I meant by that, you know.
Here's the picture. Yeah.
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 Well, so that's one of the things I know when Margaret and I were getting this thing going, you know, we talked about that it has to be available free of charge to anyone in the public, and especially writers, you know, researchers. We love the fact that you could benefit from this. So
yeah, it's fantastic. You know, it's you appreciate the value of it, and I'm sure the volunteers do too.
yeah. Well, the people that did all that work are right there on the screen for you. So
that's great. Yeah.
Yeah. And we'll get to them in 1 second, but I just want to also welcome Lisa Smith, another Vancouver historian who has joined our group today. So hi, Lisa.
Hi, it's good to be here. I hope
Glad
you can
to
hear
have
me.
you. Yes,
Lisa,
yeah, we can hear
Good.
fine.
Okay,
Thank you.
had some technical glitches at the last meeting.
Lisa just wrote the book Hastings Mill.
Oh, great.
You all wrote the book Vancouver from the Ashes about the 1886 fire.
Mhm.
Brilliant
Yeah.
book. And
Thank
what
you.
else? Lisa, you have to tell us some of the other books you've written on that.
Well, there's 4. There's Joe Fortis was the first, then
Right.
Vancouver's Ashes, Story of the Great Fire, and Emily Patterson, Vancouver's first nurse, and then most recently Hastings Mill.
Wow.
Hopefully more to come.
Great.
Well, what a gift you've given to Vancouver from bringing this history to life in such a beautiful edited way. So
Oh, thank you.
And one of my
Enjoy.
favorite books that I actually regularly buy copies and I give it to people when they visit me. It's one of my favorite things to give away is Bruce's book. You know, so Bruce, what a beautiful contribution you made, and the fact that you have made it so easy for us to see the history. You know, every decade you have a different map of Vancouver, and when I look at all of the complexity and the subtlety of all of your maps, to think that every one of those little boxes was time spent actually getting that data,
Yeah,
and
10,000 hours. Yeah.
hours.
Yeah. Bruce, can you hold up the cover of your book? Like you, I was going to put it on PowerPoint, but
But we
didn't.
don't need
So
to. We can just hold it up.
there it is. Yeah.
Oh, look at that. We've got several. Oh, I should get mine too.
Oh, great.
Why don't we
Yeah,
all
hold it
get
up.
Bruce's book and put them up and take a picture of them? Yeah. So Bruce, why don't you give us a bit of background on that?
Well, it's interesting just listening to Lisa talk, because she's obviously passionate about these subjects. And when people get passionate about stuff, it's amazing what they can do. Whether they have any background or skills or training, doesn't matter. If they're into it, they can really produce some amazing stuff. And like in my case, I mean, I did that book, 10,000 Hours of Work, but I was a laborer when I came up with the idea. You know, from 1980 to 1985, I worked as a laborer for Boza Brothers and stuff like that, you know, mainly on the end of a shovel. But the funny part of doing that was I had no stress at all in my life. And, you know, I could just think all day long. I was actually listening to Peter Zowski, like on the radio. I had a radio in my hard hat. Nobody knew because I had long hair. So I'd be listening to the radio and thinking all day long. And I was really physically healthy because I'm getting exercise. I had no stress at all. I was highly paid, way more money than I ever got being an engineer or a school teacher, you know, quite a bit more money because of the laborers union. So I was a happy camper. So I was free to just develop the book idea. It's called it the book idea. And I developed it over, I don't know how long it was, maybe a year. And this is back before color printers. So I had to do those maps by hand using, you know, sheets of color, and then put every word of text on by hand, on, you know, one letter at a time on the map. But I didn't care. I just did it. And I bought a computer in 1984 to print out text so I could do the mock-up of the actual text. And I was oblivious to what I was doing. Really, I was just following my interests, and I'd actually put the idea aside for a whole year, and then somebody in the Vancouver Historical Society said, you should show your book idea to this guy that's coming to our next meeting. Who's that? Well, the head of the history department. So I go, oh yeah, okay. And I went home and I tried to find it, and then I, brought my mock up, and in 30 seconds, the guy had no idea who I was. In 30 seconds, he basically gave me $100,000 to do the book, because I didn't want to spend 10,000 hours just laboring away with no income and no anything. But when he offered me $100,000, okay, fine, I'll do it. And that's kind of a funny story, but academia had not produced a book on Vancouver, except for Patricia Roy's book, from Victoria. Then Robert A. J. Macdonald was working on his book, Early Vancouver, what it was, I can't remember what it was called. And he was on my academic team when I got this grant. And the idea was I would do all the graphics and he would write the book. So I didn't really realize that, but of course I'm not a historian. I've never taken a course in history. I got nothing to do with history really, or geography or cartography or writing, which was all the things the book was. But so it's kind of a funny story. Robert A. J. Macdonald said, no, I'm doing my own book. I don't want, somebody else involved. And that is another point. When you work on your own, hey, when you take responsibility for something, you take control, So my book, I ended up doing the whole thing. They didn't do anything. They were supposed to write it. The 5 professors were supposed to write it on my academic team. Well, they weren't interested in writing it because the leader had said my name would go on the cover. I think that's when they lost interest. Right? When, and so I ended up doing the whole book, and that was great because I got to do it my way. I made up the title, I designed the cover, I designed the whole book. I did everything with my computer at home. And that's a great way to go when you have total control. You ever handed your stuff over to somebody else? Oh my God. Can they ever mangle it up and make it theirs, Yeah. So that's my story. And it was interesting as a laborer to go through this whole story. Because, the grant I got was what you normally get to do a master's or a PhD. Well, I got that money and some poor students. Yeah, SSHRC grant. In the 80s, though, nobody else knew how to use computers back then. And I'd been a computer programmer in 1972. So I just had all these computer skills without realizing it. I was just doing it without thinking about it. So it's funny how Hugh Johnson, the head of his department, he sized me up in 20 seconds. He knew I would produce that book dead on the deadline, and I absolutely did. And the whole story just kind of blows my mind. But it says something about Canada and the people that live here. It's a pretty good place. So, well, I guess I should get more back to what we're talking about, but that's sort of my story. So just I thought I would just do a quick overview of the time period. You're in 1880s, 1890s, 1900s up to 1911, using my book as a bit of a guide. And by the way, anybody jump in anytime, I totally believe it shouldn't be a monologue. So if you want to challenge me, please challenge me. If you want to add something, please do. If you want to comment, fine. That's all good. It's better. The more comments, the better. The more talking, the better. The more interaction.
I just wanted to add one point that your guy, Hugh, whatever his name was,
Johnson.
He was the head of SFU history
department for like 20 years. He's the guy who wrote the book on the Komagata. Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
He's like a British guy who could speak Punjabi. So he's the big expert on Komagata and East Indian culture and stuff.
Wow.
Pretty smart guy. Well, talking about smart guys, I have to comment that Sam Sullivan is a pretty great historian himself because he is so passionate about it, so interested and smart. That's a nice combination of things. And he, as you know, he's done a bunch of great videos and this kind of project, he knows the value of it, and so do all of you. But
anybody who speaks has to say that. Okay. Huh? I told Bruce that anybody who speaks has to say that.
I'm totally in agreement with you. So what, I mean, what's interesting about this project is you're going back to the original sources, you know, and the beauty of original sources, as you know, is you got a way better chance of getting at the truth than after it's been laundered by, you know, who knows what interests into something that, you know, gets into a textbook or something, or serves the empire or the government. And so with original sources, you can look for yourself at what was really going on before it gets spun into something else. So that's really valuable. Like some of the stuff I found out by going to original sources was stuff that academia still denies to this day, even though it's obvious to me it's true. But so that's the way you can get a real understanding of what's going on in the world. A lot of people are confused by the world, doesn't seem to make sense to them. But when you can go to primary sources, you get a way better understanding of what's going on. So just to run through the value of it, I mean, obviously handwriting's hard to read, and you know, it's hard to spend all day trying to read handwriting. I've given up many times trying to read, you know, council minutes and stuff like that, just because and sometimes it's terrible handwriting. You don't even know what some of the words are. There's that. But the neat thing about making it into a transcript is, of course, you can browse it just at random, like your website. You got a great website where you got a bunch of interesting things right there, and you click on them and you start reading stuff. That's just browsing, like, you know, random access is great. You know, you can get in that way. It's a lot harder to do when it's you don't really browse when it's handwriting. It's just too much work. But the other, of course, fantastic thing about the internet and digital stuff is that you can keyword search. You know, there could be one word. 8 billion people, the internet's more or less connected to pretty well, 6 billion people have got cell phones. So the internet's pretty well everybody. And you can find one word hidden amongst those 8 billion people, if you like, in a split second. I remember going to the special collections and trying to find stuff in people's theses, the person's thesis. And, you know, I mean, I can't remember, are there indexes? You know, you're trying to find a word. A lot of words aren't even in the index when you're looking up stuff, you know, but so now you're enabling us to keyword search and find out. You can look for one word in all the transcribing you've done and find out, oh, it's not there. Used to be you had to read them all to find out it wasn't there. So this is the kind of thing I'm aware of. And then, of course, you can cut and paste with digital typescript. And of course, you can print it out and make notes, which is what I do all the time. I'm always printing stuff out. So I really appreciate that you guys are making this possible. And I could tell a little story or two, but let's just go back to Vancouver, 1886. The interesting thing about Vancouver is, and the reason why it's a great thing to study, is the fact that, oh, I was going to record this. Oh, I forgot. Well, you're recording it, eh?
Yeah, I'm recording it. Not
Great.
to worry.
Right. Well, thank you, because I couldn't remember to do that.
Bruce, just for your knowledge, a lot of the transcribers are working on 1898, 1898, 99, that kind of thing.
Isn't that when we sent troops to the Boer War? Yes.
Yes, we did.
1900 actually, but
Was it 19? Yeah, a little bit later. Yeah. Okay. So we're getting there. So the interesting thing about Vancouver is it's one of the newest cities in North America, of course, 1886. And even in the world, right? The world is way ahead of us. You know, the civilization is thousands of years old, and of course, people have been here 10,000 years. But the record of a city starting from nothing and growing into almost 3 million people, which is what it is now, we have a perfect record of that, thanks to Major Matthews and now the projects like this. So I'll just remind you, you know, 1775. This is a map from 1775 when the United States was founded in 1776. Notice that the whole world is mapped except for where we are. Where we are is a blank. So we're the last unexplored part of the world, sort of. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, which is interesting. So they did have a contest. I think that the prize was £20,000 to find the Northwest Passage. Well, guess where the last place they looked for it was? The last place. Vancouver Harbor, and then Indian Arm. They gave up when they went to Indian Arm and found out it was a dead end. So in a sense, we're the last unexplored part of the world and the newest city, and sort of roughly speaking, you know, so that's important to understand. So to study it from, well, what was it? I'll remind you up until, where are we? Oh God. up until 1884, up until 1884, it was just one block long in a wilderness. So in other words, sort of like Bella Bella, a tiny place in the middle of nowhere. And as you all know, with the coming of the railroad, all of a sudden we're on a highway running from Great Britain to China, So talk about an explosion of growth. So by the end of the 1880s, it's still though mostly a wilderness. Vancouver is mostly green. You got the West End and the East End with houses, and that's 10,000 people by the end of the 80s. But I'll remind you, one thing about the early days, this is all pioneer times, that the amazing thing about going back to Gassy Jack, remember Gassy Jack, he's in my book. Gassy Jack built, where is he? Oh, not quite low enough there.
Yeah.
The downtown skyline, Vancouver's downtown skyline was one little shack.
Wow.
Shack built in one day. That was the whole downtown core. Now, here's the funny thing. Gassy Jack died in 1875. It was a long time ago. Well, guess what? I could have met his wife. His wife was alive in my lifetime. So this is how recent 3 million people are to the neighborhood. It's amazing how fast things develop and grow. It's crazy, really.
Is that Quahalia, the wife?
Yeah.
The wife?
The second wife.
She died in like
August 11th, 1948. And I was born August the 1st, 1948. So she could have held me in her arms and pinched my cheek. But our lives did overlap for sure. And so forth. So, okay, the 1880s. Just let me check what I got here. I'd actually write this all out, although I can just ramble on easily. But one of the interesting things about, you've got your head down transcribing, so I'm just going to make you lift your head up and remember what was beyond the city council minutes if you stood up and walked out of the room when the guy was writing them. First of all, Vancouver, 1886 and so forth, was a completely wooden city. Everything was made out of wood. Literally, the sidewalks are made out of wood. The streets were planked with wood. Your house was 100% old growth except for the shingles and the window trims, the window frames. And that wood today, like if you go to Home Depot, a 2x4 costs you $3. But if you want a 2x4 made out of Douglas fir, it costs you $25. Actually, it's probably more than that. The wood's all gone. We cut down 98% of it. So we moved on to something else now, chipped the wood glued together. So it was a time when they thought nothing of building an entire house out of old growth Douglas fir. And they were some of the tallest trees in the world. At some point, they probably were the tallest trees in the world, right here in Vancouver. That's why they built sawmills here in the whole of British Columbia. This is where the two big sawmills were, because it was the best place to log. And I'd like to point out that people made more money in the timber rush to Vancouver than they did in the gold rush, probably, when you look at the total amount of money from running sawmills 24 hours a day, like they were when we were kids, in Falls Creek. There's how many sawmills in Falls Creek? Log booms choking it up. And everybody burned sawdust in their basement. We were still burning sawdust in the 1950s when I was a kid. They'd come and blow in a whole basement full of sawdust. That wasn't very long ago. By the way, I'll throw in that when they brought the gas pipeline from Alberta in 1957, my dad was the guy who put in the whole natural gas system. That's why you have natural gas in your house today.
Wow.
It's a small world. So it's funny, we went to a completely wooden city. Well, then the city burned down, of course, in 1886. Then they started building commercial buildings in brick. But the rest of the city, my dad, when he first went to Point Grey High School, he lived right by Lord Byng. But Lord Byng wasn't there. So he had to walk across that big swamp, between Arbutus and or whatever, that big swamp that was there north of 16th or south of 16th. And it was a 3-plank sidewalk. My dad mentioned 3-plank sidewalk quite a bit. And by the way, he also mentioned that in the 20s, downtown Vancouver, the mail was delivered 3 times a day. And came 3 times a day. Because everybody was writing, talk about handwriting. Yeah, you had to write out by hand, everything. And it was a pretty good way of communicating, really. So everybody's furiously writing everybody else. And so 1890s, you know, just to switch to the 1890s, Vancouver had grown, but really it was only the downtown. All you had outside of the downtown was Mount Pleasant.
Yes.
So there was really, everything was north of Falls Creek, and then Mount Pleasant, you had all the young couples who couldn't afford land in the downtown, moving out to the suburbs, Mount Pleasant, and building a little house out in the woods. So, and this is a time, of course, the city's developing its infrastructure, and you'll notice that in the council minutes, right? They're bringing in the water system, they're bringing in, maybe the electricity came from Bunsen Lake in 1905. My dad's, who grew up in Point Grey, he said and some of those houses are still there today and they're worth $4 or $5 million. He said nobody had a bathroom. There wasn't any piped water, and everybody had chickens in those same houses that are still there. They didn't have a bathroom because they didn't have piped water. You had an outhouse.
Right.
Yeah.
Not very long ago. And of course, that's back when they're trying to get money to build bridges and put in roads, and it's pretty muddy. Don't forget, you're on foot or riding a bicycle, but where? In muddy streets. And so everybody lived close to the streetcar system. That was really the only thing you could do. And so the early neighborhoods, if you go to 1911, the end of year time period, there's still no cars. No one's got a car. Vancouver is just a bunch of streetcar villages.
Yeah.
All those little yellow circles are where the streetcar stops were. There's no way you could just go live out in the woods. There'd be trees falling over the trail all the time. You wouldn't be able to go anywhere. And then the First Nations people, they didn't go into the woods hunting very much because it was very hard to go through the woods because of all the fallen trees and swamps and, animals and that kind of thing. They just, the First Nations, their diet was 80% salmon. That they would just build a little fence out at low tide, and then, or halfway up the beach, then go out at low tide, and all the fish would be lying on the ground, got filtered out by the fence. And you do the same thing at the mouth of a river or mouth of a creek. You just walk over and pick them up off the ground. People with boats die because when they go to the edge to pick up something or take a leak or something, they fall in the water. So they avoided all that. They had a really good life. They were very, very healthy people, and they had a great diet. So anyhow, that was going on still in the 1880s, of course, quite a bit. So just talking about the 1890s, Vancouver ended at 16th Avenue. It wasn't a very big place. And like I said, the focus was on infrastructure. Another way of looking at these decades is just this book I worked on with Elizabeth Walker, who was at Special Collections forever. Her and I did this book together, and it's pretty interesting. Vancouver street names. I put quite a bit of time into it, but it's interesting how the earliest in the 1880s, the streets are named after trees because it was in the wilderness. So you got, if you start at Arbutus, they were supposed to be alphabetized as trees, and then the grunt worker forgot to alphabetize them, so now they're all scrambled up. But Arbutus was the first street in Kitsilano, so maybe that's why they started. I think Lachlan Hamilton put that down. Okay, start with A at Arbutus Street. But I've just written down all these trees here, alphabetize them, and then put them in order. The guy didn't do it. He put them randomly in order. People don't listen to instructions. But it's just so kind of interesting, the remnant of that alphabetical system. Well, Cypress is in the right place, Cypress Street. But also, if you go to Granville, you got fir on one side and hemlock on the other. So you got FGH. Granville was there ahead of time, the road to Granville. So you do have, that's the only part I could find. But just on street names, so that's the early years. The streets are named after trees. Then you get to the 1890s, like when they're laying out my neighborhood in Grandview, where I live now. They were celebrating the pioneering politicians and rich people who owned the land. So all the streets where I live, are named after mayors and stuff like that. So you have Templeton, who was the mayor in the late 1890s. We have Templeton Drive. Everything's a drive here. Templeton Drive, McLean Drive, you know, the first mayor. Garden Drive, another mayor. Even they go on the other, and they have Sumlin Street, which is another, the premier. And also Turner Street, which was another premier. These are streets. But Victoria Drive, of course, she was the reigning monarch at the time. And Odlum Drive, you know, he was the guy who founded Grandview and named it. So of course his name's in there. Clark Drive, Clark Park was the second park in Vancouver, 16th and Commercial. So it's kind of interesting. They're just, you know, this is the time, 1890s, where they're developing the park system. They're trying to get parks going. They're doing all, this is the work they're doing. Like, I don't know what they're doing today, but it's city council, but it's not what they were doing in the 1890s for the most part. It's a different time and it's interesting. And, you know, talk about days of empire. As Sam says, 1900 was the first time Canadians got into uniforms and went off to fight in a war. Where'd they go? Well, defend the empire, or at least invade some country, you know, the Boer War. So guess what? When Kitsilano expanded, like if you look at Kitsilano, right here this is the outer edge of Vancouver, right? This is where my dad lived, right in the wilderness almost.
Oh.
And these streets, Western Kitsilano, when they name these streets, they're all named after battle streets. So, you know, the British Empire, the winning battles of the British Empire that got them their empire. So talk about Queen Victoria, rah, defend the empire, go fight in a war. It's all back in those imperial days. So it's kind of interesting how we went from the forest to the landowners to the world scene almost, right? The battles of the world as the city developed. I don't know how they name streets today, but you know, it's all First Nations names or something like that. We've come full circle.
Yeah.
Because they're completely absent from the early days. Like all the maps from the early days, they never have any native villages on them or any recognition at all that native people were here. So there is a deficit there to make up for sure. Okay, well, I could ramble on for a long time. That's half an hour. If you want, I can tell a little story about doing research. In order to plot, you know, the landowners, the 160 acres and the 320 acres of plot that everybody in Vancouver got for $1 an acre, I had to go to the land title office, and I spent a whole month there with those absolute fee books. And I don't know, they weigh about 100 pounds or something. They're this wide, they're higher, and they're about 6 inches thick. And every line in those books is a real estate transaction. I sold this lot to this person. Well, when I was out there for a whole month, as a matter of fact, everybody thought I worked there. I got treated like an employee. I got included in the meetings and all this kind of stuff. Yeah, come on, everybody. We said everybody. Come. Kind of funny. But so I was going through the books one day, and like I say, every transaction is one line. Well, I come to a part of a book, and this is a primary source. So guess what's in there? There's one line, one transaction, and ditto marks that went for like 10 pages. You know, what the hell is that? This is weird. You know what it was? I approached my academic team and said, you know, when the CPR extended the railway 10 miles to Vancouver, they got 6,000 acres of downtown Vancouver, the center third of Vancouver, the whole downtown, and then all the way down to the Fraser River almost, from Trafalgar to Maine to Ontario. So I said, but look, I found this letter in the archives in Victoria from the guy, the president of the board of the CPR, which is Smith and Angus, right? You know, Lord Strathcona, and the president of the Bank of Montreal, Smith and Angus, biggest bank in Canada. These two guys, they sent a letter to the premier saying, and it's funny, it's just one sentence. And this is an example of being a robber baron, by the way, or as they say, behind every great fortune, there's a great crime. It's like a one sentence letter. And the letter read, oh, by the way, when you transfer that land, that 6,000 acres, don't write CPR on the land title certificate, write Smith and Angus.
Oh, wow.
That means they own it.
Yes.
So the premier wrote back and said, I can't do that. Like he knew it was taking all the land. He knew it was wrong. He wrote back and said, I can't do that. Unless, of course, if you have the approval of the board of the CPR, then okay, I'll do it. Well, who appointed the board? Smith and Angus. So, of course, they voted it through. Oh, yeah, sure. Good idea. So I was telling my academic team this, and they said, "Oh no, Bruce, you got it all wrong. They were holding that land in trust for the CPR. You know, how dare you imply such a thing?" You go, okay, well, I guess I can't prove it. But anyhow, what those absolute fee books revealed was, no, they stole half the land, because what I was looking at was, now, here's the other thing that comes out in city council minutes. When the CPR said they were building their railroad to Kitsilano Beach, they were putting a trestle across the mouth of Falls Creek. And the city council kept saying, well, we noticed you're not really putting in a span there. Like, you're blocking the entrance to Falls Creek. It's like 2 feet of water, and nobody can get in and out. The sawmills can't get access to Falls Creek. So you're gonna, you're gonna have to put something in there. They went ahead and they blocked it, right? And don't forget, city council was full of CPR members, like Lachlan Hamilton worked for the CPR. And so they said, well, oh, really? You want us to change our railroad? No, we don't want to do that. We're happy with the bridge the way it is. And so what they were doing was extorting money. So they okay, what are you proposing? Well, we propose that our 6,000 acres be tax exempt, at least the part in Vancouver, for 20 years. And then they said, but really, we really wanted to put our roundhouse at Kitsilano Beach. And now we're not happy about that. And they said, okay, well, if you put your town, this is politics. If you put your roundhouse in Yaletown, then they'll be fine, right? Okay, they agreed to put their roundhouse in Yaletown. And then they didn't take down the trestle. It was still blocking Falls Creek. And they said, well, what are you doing? You're supposed to remove this trestle. And they said, no, that wasn't part of the deal. All we did was move our roundhouse. Oh, you want us to move the trestle or to put in a swing span? Oh, well, that's something completely different. So then they negotiated a 20-year exemption from taxes on all their buildings. So they made it so that they hadn't paid no tax at all, just by being bastards, Yeah. And then they didn't even put in a swing span. They just took out the span completely because they had no use for it. They had no use at all. And that was all a ploy to buy up the land in Gastown real cheap, which is where they really wanted to put their terminus. Well, they told everyone in Gastown, oh no, we're not coming here. We're going to Kitsilano. You guys are out of luck. They lied, and they got all the land, and then they shifted it. So this is a nice study of business, right? How business really works. And by the way, so that land transaction was for the lower part of Kitsilano, down by the beach, the amount of land that went on for page after page after page. And what it was the CPR, it was 1905, the year they named Kitsilano, and they brought the streetcar to the foot of, so the year they developed it was 1905. So this land transaction was 1905. And my professor said, Bruce, you're completely wrong, because everybody knows that the CPR made a gob of money off of Vancouver real estate. Well, that's a good counter argument, except what the book showed was that Smith and Angus did own all that land, and they sold half of it in Kitsilano to the CPR for $1. And 1905 was the year they had to start. 1905 was the year they had to start paying taxes. So, well, it worked out perfect for them. They never, because you don't want to hold land for 20 years and pay taxes for 20 years and get no income at all. So they know all this stuff. This had to be robber baron stuff from the United States, because don't forget, they're mostly Americans. Lord Shaughnessy and those guys are Americans. They learned all these tricks, and they made a gob of money off of it. Smith and Angus were like the two richest guys in Canada. It wasn't from their salary. Okay, well, I got to go visit my wife in a care home. So otherwise I can ramble on forever, but
Okay.
Thank you for all your work.
Thank you, Bruce.
Bruce,
Thank
do you have it in case anybody has any questions? Did anybody want to?
Anybody? It's usually mind numbing when I talk.
No.
Sometimes people heads.
We didn't think so.
They can't digest it. A lot of people can't digest it when I talk.
I just wonder if, do you know what year the trestle came down?
It was right then in 1886 or 18. They built May 23rd, 1887. The railway came through, but they were busy building. I think it was 1886. They were building it, and then, like I say, when they agreed to get exemption from taxes on buildings, that's when they just floated a barge in and dropped it onto the barge, a trestle. They didn't bother putting in a swing span. They weren't going to use it, so they just took it out. Yeah, 1886 probably. Yeah.
Mm.
It's in the council minutes.
Bruce, just question, if there are other documents that researchers, like the council minutes, we're sort of getting
Right.
halfway there.
Yeah.
Although the minutes are getting longer and longer, so I guess we're really not halfway there, but in terms of years, we're halfway there. Is there any other documents that you think are really important?
I subscribe to newspapers.com, and the early Vancouver newspapers, some of them only lasted 6 months, but 1886, and there's a few different papers. Like, it'd be neat if somebody did scan that, so so it was digitized and you wouldn't have to slog through it trying to find stuff, because there's no index, and
That's right.
it'd be nice to be able to keyword search it, that kind of thing.
Wow.
That's one thing. It's just about scanning, so optical character recognition, OCR, right?
Yeah.
That's all you need to do. And so I don't know, people do it all the time in India, I guess. You ship all your stuff to India, but there's not very much of it. Just a few early newspapers. It's not that big a project, I don't think, but it's got some pretty neat stuff in there, because they don't tend to have much. Well, it's on microfilm, that awful microfilm. And like right that first year, 1886, especially 1887, there's stuff going on. It's in the paper. It's interesting for sure.
Yeah. Anybody else have any questions? But Bruce, thank you so much for your incredible contribution, this gift of this book. It's I use it so often. I just love bringing it out and
Welcome, thank you.
imagining what things were like in those days. So
It's like flying over it.
Like Google Earth for the
Exactly.
1880s.
Yeah. Well, I guess I can thank Hugh Johnson for being smart enough to, in 30 seconds, know that I would do it the way I planned.
What a story. What a story.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody, and Sam and everybody, for what you do. We're obviously like-minded and we're passionate about this stuff. So it's good to meet you all. It's, I was just with a group of libertarians in Vancouver, and there was 30 of them. And I made the point that there's, almost 3 million people in the Lower Mainland. And so they're 1 in 100,000. I was trying to compliment, but then I turned to the woman next to me who'd run for office and got 2% of the vote. I kind of blew it by saying, "Oh, and that's probably the reason you're not getting elected." 1 person in 100,000 to libertarian. So that it didn't go over that well. Off the cuff remark. But we are a special group. Most people aren't like this way. So it's nice to meet you and know that you're doing something I would do if I had time.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks again.
Good stuff.
Thanks, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bruce.
Yay.
Well, I'm going to sign off too, but I wanted to thank you very, very much for including me, for inviting me to hear Bruce. That was a pleasure. What a pleasure. and history books I do not have, and I got to get it. So
I wonder if it's still available.
well, I'm going to McLeod's. I think I'm going to go to McLeod's this afternoon, and if I see a copy, I'm buying it.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Good
We
idea.
have it on our library table at Hastings Mill.
Oh, okay.
We
Excellent.
have a copy that's available for anybody to look at.
Okay. It's not for sale though.
And thank you for your beautiful picture of your painting that I'm loving having it on my wall here.
I love that it's there, Sam. Thank you so much again for having it.
Yeah.
And I'll see you guys next month.
Yes.
Okay.
Margaret, thank you very much for adding the ring. Jill, just so you know, Jill said that she thinks the world of you. And I don't know if she's gotten in touch with you yet.
She has. Thank you. Yeah.
And oh yeah, because actually you're promoting us through your other groups.
Yes.
Friends. So Tom might send some potential transcribers our way.
I hope so. We're I'm going to be speaking to the Vancouver Historical Society in April, and I intend on letting them know that there are ways that they can get involved and help the cause. And one of them is to join you folks. So
Yeah.
hopefully.
And I think we're talking about getting Margaret to join your board. Is that?
That's another one. Yeah, absolutely. Margaret, we're hoping that Margaret will join the Friends of the Archives.
I'd like to. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. So don't all run away, because we actually have a door prize for one lucky transcriber. And we're going to ask our, Lisa, you're still with us. So,
I'm still with
so
you.
yeah. So I want you at random to pick a number between 1 and 10, because we have 10 transcribers
Okay.
on the call. And then after the number is chosen, and I will show you what the excellent door prize is going to be.
Okay. I have a number.
Okay. All right. Blurt it out.
Say it out loud.
Sure, please.
5.
5. Okay. That's great. Kathy, are you still with us, or are you in your multitasking? Don't know if she can hear us or not.
She just wrote yes.
Yes,
in the
it
chat.
does.
Okay, excellent. I need to share my screen for 1 minute to show you what Kathy has won. Okay. Hang on. Share my screen. There we are. Okay. So can you now see a picture of very familiar handwriting? Okay, that is a typical page of minutes written by McGuigan, who we all know and don't always love, from Vancouver, August 1st, 1898. So that's what we're usually dealing with. But what Kathy gets this time, she's asked for a set of minutes to transcribe, is the week following August 1st, Mr. McGuigan went away on vacation and someone else did the minutes. So there you go.
Oh, pretty.
Yeah, this person has the classic copper plate handwriting. So that's what Kathy gets to transcribe from, because he's our lucky winner. So Kathy, I'll be in touch soon to send you your door prize.
Kathy thought it was going to be a trip to Hawaii or something like that. I think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No.
I feel ripped off. I want to go to Hawaii.
Oh, well, we'll work on that. We have to start small.
I am interested in this. Bruce was saying about the digitizing of newspapers, and I have done that in the West Van archives way back in the day.
No kidding.
So I would be interested in discussing with someone about that a little bit too.
Okay.
Well, with Transcribimus, we're always trying to find ways to be relevant and to, you know, have such a great pool of talent to draw from. So anybody has any ideas of how we can add value, please let us know. It's a great idea. Tom, you got to get out of here. You run away. Thanks so much. Okay. Great. So was there any other business, Margaret?
I don't think so. If I looked at the calendar coming up correctly, we should be having a transcribers only meeting March 13th, and then another guest speaker March 28th. Have I done that correctly? Am I looking at Mondays? I think so.
And might that be Lisa? I guess we didn't ask her yet, but maybe we'll...
Yeah.
I'd have to check the calendar. Just
Sure.
hang on.
Okay. So
1 sec. I'll be right back.
Okay. So it's actually March 27th. It's always Monday at 3 o'clock. So
maybe I'll just give a little update on the issue which I brought up last time with Lord Robert's School. You know, there was
yeah, March 28th is free.
Okay. So but what we found out, Lisa, since you went away to check, is it's actually going to be March 27th, Monday at 3 o'clock. So I guess,
yeah.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
That's doable too.
Oh, that would be great.
Full disclosure, I don't think I can talk like Bruce does off the cuff like that. That's pretty amazing. I don't know, is there a possibility of doing a PowerPoint or?
Oh, yes.
Doing something.
Yeah, whatever.
To refer to, or...
Yeah. Any way we'll accommodate yours preferred.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Public speaking is not my strong suit. So I had to do this thing for CKNW this morning with Mike Smith. I asked if we could do it pre-recorded. So luckily
Have your
we did
nerves
that.
recovered?
Was
Getting there.
it on
Yeah.
Hastings Mill?
Yeah, I don't like doing live, that's for sure. But I sense that I have a sympathetic audience here, so I could probably wing it. But
Yes.
I'd rather be able to show you some pictures, or I don't know. Did you want something about my books or?
Well, yeah, I think whatever's passionate, whatever your passion is.
Sure.
if
Sure.
you're
I
talking
can
about
do a
your
little
passion,
maybe thumbnail on each of the books and
yeah,
see how that goes.
or your next project, or and slash or.
Yeah. Well, I'm working on Noel Robinson right now. I don't know if anybody's familiar with him. He
Oh,
was an early Vancouver historian that really predates Major Matthews, and he used to write a series in the Vancouver Daily News Advertiser called The Story of My Life. And he interviewed all these different people over the span of time, and his interview with Joe Fortis really formed the basis for my book about Joe. And he was really enamored with Pauline Johnson, and he wrote a column for several years in the Vancouver World called the World's Window, and he just wrote about random topics. So I'm just going through those one day at a time, and just transcribing the ones that I find the most interesting. So I'm really enjoying that project. That's what I'm working on right now.
Lisa, I have a question for you that I know is shared by many of the transcribers, where many of us are a big fan of Miss McPhee, who was, among other things, the matron at the hospital. And I think later she was involved with the orphanage. She's got a lot of spirit. Recent minutes that someone just transcribed said they were talking about the hospital report, and they said, well, we'll make these temporary arrangements until Miss McPhee returns, so that she can finalize them. And there's a letter from Miss McPhee saying she'll return as soon as she's given full rein in who and how she can hire as nurses. So she is, obviously giving them some pushback, which we all like. So we wonder if if there's anybody who's working on Miss McPhee in particular, because
I'm sorry, I haven't heard that name.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll send you a bit of stuff, and I'll send it to Tom and to Bruce as well, in case there's somebody who needs our little, the bits that we find and enjoy.
Probably the BC History of Nursing Society.
Oh, yeah.
They're out at UBC, and I'm sure they'd be interested.
Yeah. Okay. So, okay.
Maybe,
Well,
I was, good. I was going to just bring up another issue regarding the Lord Roberts, and
oh yes, you were. Sorry, Sam.
Might be interested, but there's other elements of transcribing that go into that, I guess, because so what happened was they voted to change the name of Lord Roberts because he was such a horrible person, and so I did some, given that we have a lot of feeling about our history, and we don't want to see names changed without a proper process, and that they really know what they're talking about. So I ended up starting to do more research, and I thought, oh my gosh, interesting that the very first Vancouver soldiers to ever be called by their country to fight and die was in the Boer War. And Vancouver, there's some beautiful pictures we have of the old soldier, the young guys who went off, and it shows which ones died and which ones were wounded. And they went off to fight under a guy named Lord Roberts. And so it was Lord Roberts was their general, and they were very fond of him, and they had a nickname for him. It was very cute. And while they were basically going off to fight the pro-slavery Boers. And I thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. We didn't really learn that. And when they got there, a guy named Mahatma Gandhi had organized hundreds of people to be in the medical corps, and they were the ones that bring the bodies of Vancouver dead and wounded, and sometimes they carried them up to 25 miles on a stretcher. And so, clearly, Lord Roberts was good enough for Mahatma Gandhi, not good enough for the school board, but we'll try to make that case still. And then the person that they liberated was a guy named Baden Powell.
Oh, really?
So I'm thinking, okay, so I made a video and I'm just working on editing it and ready to go, and I'm going to put it out there. And one of our goals is to just kind of find people who are descendants of World War veterans. So we know the names of these 17 from Vancouver that went away. Actually, apparently there was 25 of them. And even Private Victor Odlum, who started Odlum Brown many years later. He was 19-year-old private when he went off. So that's one of the goals, is to start to do some ancestry work and to see if we could find out if there are any descendants whose great-grandfather or great-great-grandfather, because the very last person to die who was a veteran of the Boer War, a guy named Gerald Ives, who died in Metro Vancouver in 1993. He was 111.
Wow.
Brought him to be honored by our current King Charles and his then wife, Lady Diana, and he got a special recommendation from them. And so he was quite a hero in 1993. They were doing a lot of TV interviews with him, and so there's some very entertaining interviews that he gave. So we're looking for people who had a connection to the Boer War. And what happened was, on the eve of their return of the soldiers in I think December 1900, the school board made a resolution to name their school Lord Roberts in honor of our veterans and the things that the sacrifices they made. And so there's some beautiful pictures of the cemetery where the Vancouver soldiers lie to this day. And actually, Lord Robert's own son died in a battle that the Vancouver people were in. And so he was also taken from the field by the Mahatma Gandhi and his people. So I thought, wow, this is kind of turning into a different story. And maybe I'm going to be, one of our goals is to join different historical societies around the province. So if anybody, identifies a Facebook group that is of different historical group, or you think people that might be sympathetic to learning about this stuff, we really would love to hear about that, because we have just hired a guy who's helping us with our social media marketing. A young guy who's just doing some contract work for us. He actually works for the Big Brothers, and he's decided to come on and help us a bit to get our word out on different Facebook groups. So just wanted to let you know that. And one of the goals that I wanted to do was also to look at the Vancouver School Board minutes to make sure I've got I got the history right, the chronology, that when did they make the decision, and was there any other commentary when they made that decision. So it would be really nice, like the school board made their decision off of a Wikipedia entry where they blamed Lord Roberts for creating a concentration camp. But that's not, there's an interesting video made by South Africa when it was under apartheid, and they were defending the Boers. This was interesting. It's on YouTube still. And they did not blame Lord Roberts. They blamed General Kitchener. They said Roberts had left the scene and gone back to London when Kitchener created these camps, temporary camps that they call concentration camps. So Lord Roberts wanted nothing to do with the camps. He said, I'm a general, I fight battles, I don't, look after, these kinds of things. So that was under the civilian authority. So the school board has got it wrong, and we want to make sure that they know that. And so we're getting people from the BC Regiment. I'm reaching out to Minister Harj Sejan, who is an old friend, and he was the head of the BC Regiment. We want him to write a letter to the school board saying, please get your history right, So fortunately, we have you and the work you're doing to make sure we have the resources to actually make sure our stories are correct. So just wanted to give you that update.
Yeah, it's interesting. Wikipedia is a great resource, but it isn't, and a lot of it is fact checked, but not, it's
Yeah.
buyer beware.
It's a good springboard, but I would never, ever use it as a, legitimate source.
For creating government policy. No.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so thank you, everybody. Margaret, anything else before we got 1 minute to go?
I think not, no.
Just as an aside, so Sam, I'm working on that list for you. So the problem is, of course, rabbit holes abound here, and I'm up to 23 or 24. I thought I had 11 or 12, but it looks like I have 23 or 24 members who had been Vancouver police officers, and it looks like at some point had gone over to South Africa during the conflict as well. So many of them, I'm just scanning, looking through. Most of them were born in England, Ireland, Scotland, one in India, but subsequently either had immigrated to Canada and then went back over to South Africa, or they were enlisted in the United Kingdom, His Majesty's forces, and then subsequently post-war came to Canada. So I'm just putting together that list of people for you right now, just for your interest.
Cool.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your work. And I guess we're 4 o'clock, so we better.
Oh, except I think Darlene had one.
No, it's okay.
I have a question. Sam, do you want me to talk to the firefighters as well? I've now gotten into the Vancouver Firefighters Society just to see if there were firefighters that went off to the board as well.
Anybody who can find that kind of information, if you have any ideas, we need to, like I'm going to get the Boy Scouts involved and the Vegan Association, thanks to Mahatma Gandhi. Okay.
I'll ask the next time I speak with them.
Well, thanks everybody. This has been a great meeting, I think. Yeah.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, glad to have you. Yeah.
I'll see you on the 28th.
Okay.
Bye now.
27th.
27th, yes.
Oh, sorry, 27th. Okay.
27th.
I didn't write it down yet, so okay. I'll put that in right now. Okay.
Thanks.
3 o'clock, right?
3 o'clock it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll put something together.
Bye.
Okay. Bye everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.